Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our webinar about billing our retainer day services through our COVID-19 pandemic. So as you know, OPW has recently released guidance related to the flexibilities when providing and billing for day services. This includes measures to allow providers to submit claims for retainer payments that includes DayHab, Prevoke, and CommunityHab effective April 16th. So my name is Marie Rowland. Let me introduce myself. I'm the billing specialist here in New York. We also have Nadine Sturgis, who is also very familiar with New York billing and is our Director of Billing and Special Projects. So as I go through this webinar today, I'm just going to walk through the setup process. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to enter those into the questions box. Nadine will try to answer those as best possible as we go through this. And then, of course, I'm going to be taking a look at those at the end, and we'll address what we can during this webinar today. And whatever we can't, we will certainly be in touch with everybody also as well afterwards. So I am going to begin on our admin tab here. So in the billing section, the first thing that you want to make sure you have set is your revenue code. So the revenue code that's going to be used on these claims is 0180. So you want to make sure you have that with the description as leave of absence. The next thing we want to make sure we put in is the new service description codes that have been issued. So here I am in the description code. I'm going to click on the list so I can show you what this looks like. So the two new rate codes that we have that we're going to be billing for are 4755 is the rate code for our retainer days for the first half of the month, and 4776 for the second half of the month. And this is directly from OPW's guidance that tells us we can bill first half and second half. That will be all inclusive of all three of those services. So I'm going to click open this first one. When you are putting in this information, so we have the service description. I just have it listed as COVID retainer first half month. I have the 4-digit rate code of 4775. I have the unit of measure labeled as half month. The staff action plan validation you can see is being left blank because we are not validating a staff action plan or documented services for these retainer day payments. In your institutional claims section, I have the revenue code selected as leave of absence. I have the rate code selected as 24. The rate value is the 4-digit rate code of 4775, and then you have your locator code down at the bottom. So the next thing that's going to be hugely important through billing this, the first half and second half, is the way that they are issuing your rates. So you also want to make sure you enable the rate history on this. So I have two rate history lines. The first one covers 5/1 to 5/15. When you get your rate amount, you want to associate that in this line with your first month, the first of your first half month payment. So that's going to go here on the top line from the 16th through June 30th. You'll have the other rate amount. So again, OPWGD is going to give you this information, and you will be putting in your unit rate based on what they give you. I'm also not using the automatic unit calculation here because this is first and half month and the services are not based on time. So the next one, I just want to go back and go over the second half. It is pretty much a mirror image of that, but I just want to make sure that we address it and go over it while we're on this webinar. So again, I have the COVID retainer. This is for the second half of the month. The service code here is 4776. Unit of measure is still half month, still no staff action plan validation. And you have your institutional claim information here as well. Your unit rate history, and no automatic unit calculation. So really, again, they are basically mirror images of one another with the exception of changing that, the 4-digit rate code there. While we are on the admin tab, the next thing we are going to do is set up a brand new attendance type, not time tracking, however. I'm going to click on my attendance type list. So here, I'm going to open up the one that I have labeled retainer, DH, PV, and CH. Again, you can phrase this differently if you'd like. This was the most direct and simple way to have this labeled, in our opinion, just because it shows that it's retainer and it shows that it's encompassing these 3 services as a whole. So I have the type name. I have use time in and out set to no. And the advanced option that typically we have not used in New York to this point is this option that says use direct billing units from attendance. So this is what we're going to select in the advanced options here, which is going to be the key to getting this set up and billed for. In the options section, I only have the option name as present with an option code of P. And you just want to make sure that you're associating your 0180 revenue code with that present billable option. So those are the steps for the admin tab. I am going to pause. Nadine, are there any questions that you think have come up that I should address before we move to the billing tab?
Yeah, I think there's some confusion around the dates of service. And I just wanted to make note that OPWDD has indicated that the first date of service that you would bill is May 1st. And that payment would be inclusive of service dates beginning April 16th through the 30th, and then through the first half of the month of May. So Marie, you might want to show on our website, we do have a user guide, and we've also linked to the guidance that OPWDD has released. And in there is when they talk about the dates and how your first billing for 5/1 is at a higher rate than your subsequent billing period. And so that's why Marie had set up the unit rate history to show that 5/1 through 5/15 would be a higher rate than 5/16, and then on through your later months, however long that may be. So I hope that clears up some of those questions there regarding those dates of service. Thank you, Marie.
Yes, I thank you for clarifying that. That was hugely helpful. And I'm going to I'm going to our New York page on TheraApp's website, just so you can see where this is located, what Nadine's referring to here. So on the very top of our New York State page right now is our COVID-19 guidance material. The newest addition to that is this COVID-19 day service flexibilities and retainer billing. When you click on this, it brings you to the user guide of everything that I'm going over today. So you'll have a step-by-step guidance with screenshots as to how all of this gets set up. And the link, again, that Nadine was just referring to for the additional state guidance is found here. And this brings you right to the day service flexibilities webinar that was held. So this gives you all of that information issued by OPWDD themselves. Does that help, Nadine, or is there any other clarifying points you want me to make sure that I visually show?
No, that's good. That's good. And then anything for billing before the previous retainer day billings on the COVID-19, there's there's additional links there that we've covered previously as well. So this webinar is specifically for that April 16th and forward date.
All right. Any other topics to cover before we go to the actual billing? You think we're good and can go on?
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Okay, so we have our admin tab set. The next thing that I'm going to do is go to the billing tab. And we need to create service authorizations now because we have new rate codes and a new method to collect this information with. So I am going to find the service authorizations that I previously created in here. As you're going in to set these up, you will be doing a new service authorization. And you'll be selecting the program that you are choosing to associate this service with. In my case, when I set this up, I chose to associate this with my DAHAB program. So that is what I'm going to pull up now. So when I open up the service authorization, so your begin and end date, when you look at that guide, you'll see the begin and end date is set from 5/1 to 6/30 of 2020. So forgive the 4/1 here, but I had to use that for our demonstration purposes today. So yours will have the dates beginning 5/1 to 6/30/2020 because our first date that we're going to bill on a claim is 5/1. So down here we have the two new service lines. So I've added the 4775 and 4776 within both of these lines. I've added total billable units. For our data collection information, I have attendance selected with the retainer attendance type that we had just set up previously. Our rate information is pulling from the service description code that we had just set up prior. And that's all that's contained in that. And it's, again, a mirror image for 4776 for the second half of the month. We have units associated with attendance as the method of data collection, retainer as the attendance type, and your rate history information pulling from the service description code on the admin tab. So when you have this information input for your first individual and you've approved the service authorization, you'll be copying and creating this for another individual. For the rest of the individuals that will be receiving this retainer day billing information and that you'll be submitting claims for. Once you have all of your service authorizations in, if you are submitting claims through SARAP, then it's definitely important to highlight the point that once you have the approved service authorizations in, you're going to want to make sure that your claim templates have the new, the new service description code listed with them. So if I open up Elizabeth's multi-use claim template with that provider ID, we just want to make sure that the first half and second half months are both linked to that claim template. Otherwise, when you go to generate claims, these will not appear. So that would be an important step if you are generating claims in SARAP. Once the setup is complete, the next piece that comes along with this is the actual attendance data generation. So I'm going to do attendance new because really we don't need a date span for this particular purpose. We just need to create our billable units on one date of service for one rate code at a time. When you go to do this, you will be selecting May 1st as your start date. As you all so well know, you cannot document in SARAP at a future date in time. So I can't put in May 1st I'm going to mimic the process by using April 1st. Just want to make the point again, if you're watching this webinar later on, your start date, your date of service will be May 1st, not April 1st, like I'm doing right now. So I have my retainer attendance type. For my service date of May 1st, I'm picking my first half month. And I am picking the program that I've approved all of my service authorizations in, and I'm going to hit search. This piece, thankfully, is very straightforward once we get to this attendance screen. So what I'm doing here, I'm picking my attendance type, my option is present. The direct billing unit is going to be 1. So we want to apply 1 billing unit to all of the individuals in that site for April 1st. So I've set it again at the top, that I'm picking my billable attendance option with 1 billing unit, and then I've selected all of these individuals all at once, and I'm going to submit. I'm going to approve. And then I'm going to generate. So again, we're not validating ISP data being completed, so that's why you're not seeing the numbers at the bottom right-hand corners of all of this information. So I'm just going to simply hit generate billing data. So if I look at one of these billing data forms, you can see here is my COVID retainer first half month. I have 1 billable unit. You'll then, when it comes time to repeat this process on May 16th, you're going to choose the second half month. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. Eventually. Here we go. Okay, so here's my present billable option. 1 billing unit. Again, I'm selecting everybody in that list, and I'm going to submit. I'm going to approve. And I will generate. So now again on here, here's my second half month with the service date of 4/16 with 1 billable unit. Once you have the attendance data created and generated for billing, you can then proceed and move forward with whatever means it is that you are using to generate your claims. If you're generating through TheraP, you'll follow the same process that you normally do using the institutional claim new. Oh my goodness. And you'll be picking the 2 new rate codes, the 4775 and 4776. The claim generation is going to happen the same way that it usually does for you. You'll generate these claims and submit. If you're doing them outside of TheraP, you'll follow the same processes that you do with any regular service that you're billing for. Okay. So that really is the process from start to finish. I'm going to try to take a look at some of these questions. Nadine, it looks like there's a lot of questions. So are there ones that you think we should pick out to address first?
So one of the frequently asked questions has been more around billing for services as they typically happen. Our understanding is that this retainer payment rate code is going to be inclusive of 80% of your revenues for a previous time period in 2019 for both DayHab, CommunityHab, and Prevoke. And so the rate that your agency gets issued, our understanding from the guidance is that that is going to include all 3 of those services at 80% of those revenues. So if you are still able to make up the additional 20% of revenues to make your agency whole, And so that's where if you typically provide, or if you're able to provide those services in the COVID environment now as normal, you still are able to provide those services according to services outlined in a HAB plan or staff action plan, and bill those as normal. So there would be no change to that, your current setup for Day Hab, Community Hab, and Prevoke. You can still continue to bill those as normally. These rate codes for this retainer period are different as a way to supplement those particular rates. So you will need to set up a new attendance type specifically for these rate codes, because we're using the direct billing units rather than the attendance types that you would have used for Day Hab or Prevoke.
Perfect. Okay.
I think that gets a lot of our questions. But I'm going to share the link to that user guide in the chat. That might be helpful too.
I'm just kind of scrolling through ones that hadn't been answered yet. Is the direct billing units a required field on the attendance? It is not a required field, so it's not going to warn you if you don't have anything in there. So if you want to apply that one across the board, just make sure you're doing that right after you click present. So that was a good question though, so thank you for that. Katina, yes, Nadine is sharing the how-to. Okay, so you got the one about the Fundeasy. That's going to be the Fundeasy export you're going to utilize in the same manner that you always do. There is no change to that. This will be posted. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say there's a couple questions about that it looks like we're billing this for each person. Anytime you submit a claim, you have to associate that with an individual. So there's not a way for HIPAA compliance, unless it's maybe state funded or something. If you're being issued a rate code, you're billing that by individual. You're going to be submitting a regular 837 file electronically to eMedNy, and so it would be by individual. So you'll set up service authorizations for each individual for that.
Perfect. Yes, this website, or excuse me, the presentation will be posted on our website in the coming days. Will you have a webinar on how to do retainer billing for respite? Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I have not seen any information that you're going to be able to bill retainer days for respite services.
Yeah, that's come up a couple times. If anybody has specific guidance around respite, we'd be certainly happy. We've kind of been looking for it ourselves. And so if you have any information, please feel free to pass that along. We have not heard anything about respite specifically.
For days we provide services, we would bill the same way, just enter time in and out, etc. For the actual claim submission, I haven't heard that it should be done otherwise. It's billing for services that you're providing. The documentation, if you're doing this via telehealth, it has its own set of requirements that you have to just make sure are included in that documentation, but the billing will not be changing for the 20% of the services that you're actually providing. Okay, so it looks like we did get a little bit of feedback there, which is nice. So thank you to our lovely provider community for giving that feedback there about respite. There is no retainer billing. Agencies are providing alternate services if possible. And respite can be billed via ComHab, enroll the person into ComHab and bill. So that, I mean, that you can't just go and bill it just because they do have to be enrolled in the service with OPWDD. So, but that you can take up with them. Any guidance on community hab billing between the 18th and 31st for retainer days? From what I understand, I don't think that they've said anything about the back payment for community hab going back to March 18th. But again, if anybody's heard anything about that, that would be wonderfully helpful information to share if you do receive it, but I don't think it's been released yet. Correct, Nadine?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, in the previous webinar, they said that they were going to give out additional guidance about some more community hab details. So there might be more coming about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep up with the stuff that's coming in. So if I'm seeing a little off here, just me. Why does the second rate, oh, I skipped a couple here. What code do we use for enhanced residential hab rate?
The rates your agency should be issued individual rates based on the methodology in New York.
Beautiful. Why does the second rate end on 6/30? Is that coming from OPW? Yes, that's not just us throwing a dart at the calendar. Thankfully, that's just what it's approved for right now. So that's all. That's the only information that we have. Could you repeat that on telehealth?
I just wanted to back up a second. That 6/30 date, as things change, COVID changes quite quickly, and so if your agency is able to continue to do that attestation and provide the revenue reports that OPW is looking for, that 6/30 date may be different for your particular agency. So keep note on that. That's not a hard and fast rule, especially as COVID changes things on a regular basis.
Perfect. Yes, thank you. Repeat that on the telehealth as well. So the piece on the telehealth, I think that you're referencing is the documentation piece of things. According to the most recent webinar that they did about providing the telehealth services, you just need to include in your documentation that the services were provided via telehealth, what avenue you took to deliver that telehealth, whether it be through, Zoom meeting, phone, whatever the case may be, and whether or not there were any technical issues during that provision time. We are also, it's a good time to drop the user group into this. We will be having a New York user group tomorrow. If you haven't registered for that, if you need that information, I can certainly get it to you, but we'll be talking about that documentation thing as well in a little bit more detail tomorrow during that user group too. So that would be a good opportunity for you to come join us for that and learn a little bit more. Let's see. Still waiting on Tomhab, yes. Second phase, yes. Where did that answer on respite not being retainer eligible? I don't know, Alyssa, if you meant my answer or the answer from our other providers. Respite not being eligible came from that most recent OPW webinar. If I didn't understand your question correctly, by all means, feel free to write back in and correct me there. You got the ICS. What else am I missing here, Nadine? I'm trying to scroll. I just want to make sure I want to hit like the most commonly asked things. Thank you for putting in the user group registration, Karen. What are we seeing? I'm trying to hit on the most commonly asked questions,
Yeah, I think we got through a lot of the questions. When will the attestation be sent to agencies? You should follow up with OPWDD directly about that. That's not a process that unfortunately Therap can help with. I would say if you have not seen, so if you're looking for any type of guidance OPWDD has a lot of information on their website, as well as, and we're trying to keep as up to date as we possibly can throughout all of our states. And so you can find links to guidance on our website. If you go to our support website, we have a COVID website. And then also we're trying to put that all on the New York page as well. So they're listed in a couple places. So take a look at those guides. If you have any additional questions, please let us know. You can reach out to us at bill-support at therapservices.net, New York at therapservices.net, or there's always a feedback in your when you're logged into the Therap application, and you can get that information there. Also, on our website, you should be able to find a link there for the user group tomorrow as well. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Marie. You did wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine, as well, for all of that clarification.
Have a good day, everyone.